So, do you want to know what's happening in the Seattle real estate market? We hear all the time about this crazy market, and is there a bubble? Is it going to crash? What's going to happen? Well, stay tuned and we'll let you know. So, hey everybody, this is Tova Williamson, and today I've got my good friend and lender,
Leah Zamir.
And today we're going to talk about what the Seattle housing market is like. In this channel, we shoot tons of videos about living in Seattle, moving to Seattle. So if that's something that you're interested, go ahead and click the subscribe button, click on that bell so you'll be notified every time that a new video comes out. We honestly get reach outs every single day from people moving to the area, and we love hearing from you. If you're moving anywhere in the Seattle area, give us a call, email, text, because we got your back when you're moving to Seattle. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the Seattle market. Will it crash? Is it a bubble? Like, what's going on? Leah, you're a lender. What do you think?
I mean, I see my business is obviously growing, but that's part because of my team and part because people are moving to Seattle. So a lot of people are asking us about an exodus from Seattle. And so I actually put together quite a few slides to kind of talk us through why I don't feel like anything is, going to start reverse trending anytime soon. A lot of people mentioned, is there a bubble? I'm going to wait to buy and all these things. And so I try and, educate myself on as much data as I can. One of the things that we did see in 2020, with the scare of COVID, a lot of people are moving out of Seattle, but they're actually just moving to other counties and cities in the greater area. This chart here shows that a majority of Seattleites are actually just moving to Linwood, Shoreline, Bothell, Kirkland. We actually pulled another statistic here that shows that the average person moving out of Seattle is just moving to Snohomish and Pierce County. Meanwhile, people moving to Seattle are from those outskirt areas along with LA and New York. I myself have seen quite a few more LA and New York buyers that I normally don't need to correspond with. So about an uptick, I think I do 1 or 2 loans a month now dealing with people coming from Los Angeles, California, or New York.
Yeah. Well, and just some anecdotal, clients that I've been helping that are wanting to buy a house with COVID and, people not having to work in the office, people are more willing to live a little further out and not caring about the commute as much.
Yeah, I think COVID really made people think about where they live, especially when your house became your office and your restaurant and your school for your children. They wanted a little more space. I pulled this also from realtor.com talking about appreciation in the area. And that kind of mirrors what I just showed you in people moving out from the Seattle area. So, we have Seattle itself with very good appreciation of 8.8%. But King County as a whole is at 11.8%. So that means the outskirts of Seattle are carrying them in terms of appreciation. Pierce and Snohomish County, our 2 big counties on the top and bottom of King, are up 16.8% and 17.4%.
Wow.
Not only are people moving from Seattle, but Seattle also has a ton of new buyers coming. Inventory levels in Seattle have always been somewhat inventory levels in Seattle have always been, what is that word?
What?
Mismal?
Oh, like just bad, like dismal?
Dismal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Inventory levels in Seattle have always been pretty dismal. And so here's what we look at is months of inventory. In 2017, we had 0.6 months of inventory. The worst we'd ever seen was December 2017, 0.4 months inventory. It means that people are buying houses faster than we can put them on the market.
Yeah, and just to elaborate on this stat too, month supply is basically if nothing else new came to the market, how long would it take all the available homes to be bought up, right? So yeah, in a strong buyer's market, it's I think 4 to 5 months inventory, and a seller's market, as we see what we're in and we've been in for quite some time. 2.4 is great compared to less
than where
we're seeing now.
0.7. Yeah. We're not even at a month supply.
Yeah, so a couple weeks.
It's really crazy. And I mean, how hard has it been you with buyers trying to find
Oh
places
yeah.
to live?
Well, and I feel like there's even times even before like 2021. I mean, the market's always been pretty like hectic here in Seattle, but 2021's just been like on steroids. And I feel
Mhm.
like even the last couple years, you could still find some of those little like diamond in the rough houses that have maybe been sitting on the market a little bit. Like you could still kind of find things sometimes. And now I just
Yeah.
feel like nothing, like everything's just getting snatched up in like a week or 2 weeks. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way with the deals we're closing. I never see anyone just be the only offer on the table at any
yeah,
point in time.
yeah,
And that's, the question really is supply and demand, right? That's
yeah.
called capitalism. And so is this going to get better or is it going to get worse? And that should help you kind of figure out whether or not there's a bubble. When we look at who are the people taking stuff off the inventory, we're looking at new buyers. And so people on average buy their first home from 31 to 33. And so those are millennials still, right? And
Yeah.
as Seattle goes, we have the highest amount of millennials per capita. In addition, this is a national average from the National Association of Realtors, but millennial buyers occupy 38% of the buying pool.
Wow.
Yeah. And so Seattle in general, since we have so many of them that haven't even purchased, they're going to be removing inventory from our market. When you or I go to buy a home, we're putting a house on the market and purchasing a home. So
Yeah.
the inventory doesn't change. So I don't think in the next couple of years, that's going to adjust for anybody.
Yeah. Well, that's what I always think. Like, we either need to see an influx of supply or less demand, right? For anything to
Mhm.
happen. And I just, yeah, like we'll go into demand more, but supply, hopefully, maybe now with COVID, things getting a little more normal, people might want to put their homes on the market. People might have been waiting until all of this. So I guess,
Mhm.
time will tell and we'll see. But
Yeah, the one thing I'm hoping is with the landlord moratorium being up
yeah,
I think you were talking to me about that.
yeah,
Um, with it being up in June, maybe we'll see some landlords listing their properties and that would help with inventory
yeah,
levels, but
yeah, yeah.
can't be that many, right?
Yeah, we'll find out maybe.
To come next update.
Yeah.
I also grabbed this from Freddie Mac. So they always look at the outlook because they're a for-profit business, even though they do 30-year fixed mortgages. And so they're looking at the outlooks for where interest rates going, how many people are going to be buying houses, and what's the housing price growth going to look like, because that's going to change how much lending they're doing. 2020 was a little bit of a bust. We saw during Q2 and Q1, there was very little percentage growth because people weren't able to list their homes. They weren't able to buy. So there was no movement during those two
Yeah.
quarters.
And I feel
But
like March and April last year, like with things starting to happen and lockdown starting, like everybody kind of just froze for like a little bit too.
yeah, and I think that was I mean, I know what we experienced obviously in Washington, but I think it was nationwide.
Yeah.
And this is kind of showing that. Q3 and Q4, however, it caught up. So we had a 2020 with a total of 11.3% growth. And that's kind of crazy if you think about half the year being shut down.
Yeah.
And then also interest rates are on the rise, but they're going up to what Freddie Mac assumes to be in 2022. The end of 2022, they'll only be at 3.8%. And historically speaking, over the last 4 years, that's still lower than it's ever been since 2016. So
Yeah.
people are still going to want homes for cheap.
Yeah. And yeah, you just have so much more buying power if the rates are low, right?
Yeah. You can afford almost 10% more with rates being lower by 1% is a good kind of rule of thumb. But the question is like, why does this all matter in terms of Seattle? Because I mean, you just said it with, yeah, the demand is there, but is the supply going to change? And so we have, why Seattle of all places, and why has our market been so hot? We have these big companies, Amazon, Microsoft, Starbucks, Google, and they're going to start calling people back to work. I know Amazon was talking about July for a lot of my clients. Microsoft is talking about September. Airbnb is being real loose, and they're shooting for 2022. But all these companies are going to start needing people to come back to work, and that's going to hurt our supply.
Yeah. Even more.
I just did a little snap. These are more companies that we have.
The big ones. Well, yeah, just even clients, that I talk to that are moving here, a lot of them are getting jobs at Microsoft and Amazon and some of these big tech companies. So it's definitely bringing people into our city and state.
And then, why these companies choose these places and why people want to live in different states and areas. I was thinking about that a lot when we talked about doing this YouTube, and I'm thinking like, people love to be in places where there's things to do, more metropolitan areas. And one big benefit, there's a huge exodus from California because of the income tax laws. And so I wanted to find out how many states had no income tax and what their populations look like. Seattle has the third high, or Washington, I should say, had the third highest population for a state with no income tax, only to be beat out by Texas and Florida. But in terms of places that are good to live, the US Department of Labor and the FBI put together this study of ranking the states of where you would want to be. Mm-hmm. And so Seattle, or Washington, was number 6. And that's using like population density, education, median income, poverty levels, crime rates, environments. So
interesting.
Yeah. And we definitely beat out Texas and Florida.
Yeah.
If you could guess that.
Yeah.
But that's really, that's what I'm thinking when I look at this stuff. It's like, is our supply going to get better? And is our inventory, is our supply going to get better? And are we going to have less buyers? And the answer to both those questions, I feel, is no.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always said that too. Like, I feel like there's going to have to be I've always thought that just in the Seattle market in general, even before this year, was there's going to have to be some like cataclysmic, like huge thing to happen to get like our market to slow down. And we did see COVID, that was like this huge thing, but it didn't really affect it too much. People still were buying houses and working and moving. So yeah.
Yeah. If you look, totally. If you look at, what you get in New York or San Francisco versus what you get in Seattle, that's one of the big selling points too, is people don't want to give up their metropolitan areas, but they want a little more space. So people in Seattle who feel like they're crammed have nothing compared to these other places where the price per square foot is so high.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing too, that people talk about like, oh, well, can't they just build more houses, and where we live geographically, it's just, there's water, mountains, hills, like you look at that, it doesn't look like that crazy. But then when you're here, you're just like, oh, there's mountains everywhere and hills. And so it's hard to find a lot of open land to just build all these new houses. And now with lumber prices being what they are too, it's just kind of crazy. The new construction is not necessarily cheaper at all compared to the resale market. So
I know that's a really good point. The most expensive thing in Washington is our land. I feel like we have a lake for every house.
Yeah. There's like valleys and there's all, it's hard to find some good vacant land. So yeah. Well, you got any other slides for us, or is that?
No, I don't. Thanks for having me on this thing.
That's fun. Some good info. Definitely there you have it. I think that's pretty representative of what I've been thinking and noticed, and it's good to see some data points behind that. But I don't see the market cooling down soon anytime. I think maybe there might be like some shifts where maybe it's not quite as competitive, but I think it's still going to remain a seller's market for a while. So if you're looking to buy, just get in now, because I think prices are only going to go up and interest rates are probably going to go up too, right? So
what do they say? The best time to buy a house was yesterday?
Yeah, I know. I'd always do that when I bought. I'm like, God, I should have bought like 10 years ago. Like, why did I wait? But whatever. So, all right. Well, there you have it, guys. That's our video. Thanks for watching. Like we said, moving to Seattle can be really tough, especially if you don't know the area, but we're here to help. We want to help you, but we can't unless you give us a call. So email, text, call, whatever you got to do to get a hold of us, because we got your back when moving to Seattle.